Hello and welcome everybody to our Self-Leadership Reading Club. I'm Ella Bates, I'm your learning expert, and I'm here to walk you through today's principle, which is principle number 15. What is a Self-Leadership Reading Club? Well, we are reading the Success Principles book by Jack Canfield. We are on episode 15, if you can believe it, right? You don't even have to buy the book. I read certain sections and then we discuss it. So feel free to put some stuff in the comments. Tell us what you think. Is this something you resonate with? Tell us a story, share with us. So today is feel the fear and do it anyway. And I've talked about fear a lot on some of these episodes, but this particular section that Jack's wrote is a really meaty section. It talks about why we feel fear, different ways to get out of the feeling of fear. Do we self-create it? Are these things in our DNA? And it goes into a bit more detail. So today and tomorrow, we're going to be dealing with fear in the same episode. So let's get cracking. There's some really great quotes on here. We come this way but once. We can either tiptoe through life and hope that we get to death without being too badly bruised, or we can live a full, complete life, achieving our goals and realizing our wildest dreams. Bob Proctor said that. What do you think of that quote? I like that one. Here's another one. You know, I like my cheesy quotes. I have insecurities, but whatever I'm insecure about, I don't dissect it, but I'll go after it and say, what am I afraid of? I bet the average successful person can tell you they fail so much more than they've had success. I've had far much more failures than I've had successes. With every commercial I've gotten, there were 200 that I didn't get. You have to go after what you're afraid of. And that was by an actor. And it's so true. So before I get reading into this particular episode, I want to just take a moment to look at survive versus thrive. Oh, my computer's making a very funny noise. Woo! It's probably just the fan. But surviving versus thriving. So if you're watching this live, we are the 15th of April, 2020. It is during COVID-19. And if you're watching replay, do hashtag replay, please, on your comments so I know if you've watched the replay anyway. So right now, when you're asking people, how are you doing? How are you coping through this time? And I keep hearing this word, I'm surviving. Now there's two trains of thoughts. A, this is great. You are surviving because that is our ultimate mission. In fact, it's your brain's only mission is to keep you alive. Did you know that? It's the only mission. It's not a mission to keep you happy, keep you outside of emotions, keep you unfearful. It's just to keep you alive. There's the other train of thought where surviving just means literally the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what that is basic needs, food, air, water, shelter, right? And then after that comes security, love and belonging, sense of connection, self-actualization, and flourishing, right? So for me, you've got a choice. You can either just plod along. If you think of it back to kind of the normal days, just in that rat race, just in that hamster wheel, you get up and you do the same old things and you eat the same old things for breakfast and you say the same old things and get into the same old car to get on the same old road to get into the same old job and the same things. It's like Groundhog Day anyway. So when we're calling this Groundhog Day, there's no flipping difference at all right now, except we are making changes to our daily routines. So that's the surviving train of thought. And then you have thriving, where you have an opportunity at all times, especially in the face of adversity, when we're wanting to create some resilience, where we want to thrive in this situation. How can I make the best of this situation? You've heard of these cheesy sayings like, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? So we want to thrive. So in order to do that, you have to address what is holding you back. So this particular chapter is about feeling the feels and then going for it. My friend Miranda Perrone, who's the moon mother, if you don't know who she is, you should follow her, Rise with Amanda. She's pretty awesome. Feel the fear and do it anyway. But she says the only way out is through, and it's so true. So let's get reading what Jack has to say. As you move forward on your journey from where you are to where you want to be, you're going to have to confront your fear because fear is natural. Wherever you start a new project, you take on a new venture, or you put yourself out there, there is always fear. Unfortunately, most people let fear stop them from taking the necessary steps to achieve their dreams. Successful people, on the other hand, feel the fear along with the rest of us, but they don't let it stop them from doing anything they want to do or even have to do. They understand that fear is something to be acknowledged, experienced, and taken along for the ride. They have learned, as author Susan Jeffers suggests, to feel the fear and do it anyway. Millions of years ago, fear was our body's way of signaling to us that we were out of our comfort zone. It alerted us to to danger, and gave us the burst of adrenaline we needed in order to run away. Unfortunately, through this response was useful in the days when saber-toothed tigers were chasing us. Today, that our threats are not at all life-threatening. It's very, very rare they're life-threatening. However, I do want to address something very, very simple right now. How do you remember being in an actual fearful situation and not feeling fear? It's possibly happened to you at one point in your life. Maybe this was giving birth. Maybe this was getting in a car with a new driver. Maybe it was coming out of a fire or something like that, right? And maybe your reaction surprised you. I used to teach crowd and crisis control to seafarers, to people who worked at sea. And I used to say to them, you never really know your reaction until you're in that situation. All you can do is make sure you have the tools in the toolbox to happen when that happens to you. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. And it's kind of funny, actually. I was babysitting my father's dog, Goldie, at the time. Dad, if you're watching this, you'll remember this. And I'd made a bacon sandwich on the grill. So the grill's on a broiler in the UK, right? So I made a bacon sandwich. I'd eaten my bacon sandwich. And then I could hear this whirring noise. I'm like, this is really odd. And all of a sudden I heard the smoke alarms going off upstairs. I'm like, oh my God. So I run outside. I go knock on next door neighbor's door. And I said, please, call the fire brigade. And then I went back to the house. And I'm like, what do I do? The house is on fire. But I could hear the dog. So that's how dogs bark, apparently. So in I ran, to get this fire that wasn't there. And I grabbed the dog and I come out and there was no fire. Like, there was no fire, there was no smoke, there was nothing. What happened was something had got blocked in the toilet. The toilet had overflown and got into the smoke detector. My dad ended up having a whole new bathroom made. I felt really bad about that. Yeah, I dropped some leaves that I pulled from a plant into the porcelain toilet. Don't do that. But anyway, it showed to me that I'm not as fearful as fire as I thought I was. And in the future, I became a fire walker, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm sure you recognize that there's a story like that maybe you're involved in. Share it with me. Put it in the comments. Some people do anything to avoid fear. People do lose their investments. People do forget their lines. People do fall off mountains. People do die in accidents. But as the old adage so wisely tells us, nothing ventured is nothing gained. I said to a lovely friend of mine yesterday, I have been really blessed with some amazing experiences, and you'll hear me share these stories across the episodes. And I've been blessed to be in front of people who've had amazing experiences as well. And it's all because I said yes. I just said yes. Okay, it's scary, but yes, let's do it. The only thing I will not say yes to is a bungee jump, because I think they're crazy, but that's a whole other ball game. Have you heard this acronym? False evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Jack Canfield has the acronym fantasized experiences appearing real. I like that one too. Another cheesy quote, because I like these. I have lived a long life and had many troubles, most of which never happened. Mark Twain. Just crazy. I'm going to read this next bit, and I'm going to talk about some emotional mastery that I learned from Tony Robbins, which I think you'll really like. It's the emotional mastery triad, one of my favorites. One way to actually disappear your fear is to ask yourself what you're imagining that is scary to you and replace that image with a positive opposite. That sounds easy, doesn't it? It's easier said than done. When I was flying to Orlando recently to give a talk, I noticed the woman next to me was gripping the arms of her seat so tightly that her knuckles were turning white. I introduced myself and I said to her, "Are you afraid?" She said, "Yes." "Would you be willing to close your eyes and tell me what thoughts or images you're experiencing in your head?" She said, "Yes." And she closed her eyes and she replied, "I just keep imagining the plane not taking off the runway or it crashes." "I see." I said, "Tell me, where are you headed to?" "Orlando?" "Yeah. I'm going to spend 4 days with my grandkids at Disney World." She said, "Great. What's your favorite ride at Disney World?" "It's a small world." "Wonderful. Can you imagine being at Disney World right now in one of those gondolas with your grandchildren? It's the small world attraction, right?" "Yes," she said. "Can you see the smiles and the look of wonder on their faces as they watch all the little puppets and the figurines from the different countries bobbing up and down and spinning around?" "Yes," she said. At that point, I started to sing the song. I'm not going to sing for you guys. Her face relaxed, her breathing deepened, and her hands released the grip on the arms of the seat. In her mind, she was already at Disney World. She had replaced the catastrophic picture of the plane crashing with a positive image of her desired outcome, and instantly her fear disappeared. You can use the same technique to disappear any fear that you may ever experience. Now, great story, Jack Canfield, great story. We can do all these things. However, you need to look at 3 different things to master emotions. I'm very, very blessed. I have a life coach, and she happens to belong to the Tony Robbins coaches as well. Can you tell? Because I talk about Tony Robbins a lot. I think he's great. Anyway, Tony Robbins came up with a triad. It's one of the very first things that I ever saw to do with Tony Robbins. And it's a triangle. And at the very top is written focus. At the side is language. And the other side is state. Focus, language, and state. If you want to change a charged emotional state that you're in, all you have to do is change 3 of those things: what you're focusing on, the language that you're using, and the state. Let me give you an example of that. So let's say you are scared of spiders. Now, I want you to understand as well that because we don't have a lot of life-threatening experiences, at least I hope that you don't have quite that heightened emotion as if there was a saber-toothed tiger. However, your brain does react in that way, which is why sometimes we can make a mountain out of a molehill. I'm sure you've heard that phrase. It's been said to me a couple of times in the past. So let's say you're scared of spiders. Now, you've put that fear on yourself, okay? Maybe it's a real phobia. Maybe you actually got attacked by a huntsman spider when you were in Australia, you got bit, you went to hospital, fair enough. But most of the time, we have an irrational fear of spiders, potentially. So when we have that fear of spiders, we tend to clench up our muscles and we start to shake maybe you hyperventilate, maybe you get a bit of a sweat on. Now, if I asked you to start clenching your shoulders right now, start to shake a bit, okay, and start to breathe a bit funny, you would actually adapt those emotions and those hormones. Your body would go, oh, okay, let's prepare for this situation. So we're going to do quite the opposite. So I'm going to ask you in that situation to bring your shoulders down. I'm seeing some love here, so I'm assuming there's some people scared of spiders. We would put our shoulders down. We would raise our head up. We would do deep breaths, quite the opposite. You would do the opposite of the state, the physical state that you're in. Let me give you another example of that. When you're feeling depressed, you're more likely to be hunched over. Maybe your head's down. Maybe your shoulders are all brought in. So you would do the opposite. And although it would feel unnatural because it's not cognizant of, it's not in balance with your body language and your words, what happens is because it's out of that balance, your body goes, oh, maybe we're not feeling depressed. And you actually trick your body into not thinking that. So that's your physical state. And that's why when you go to these big events with like Kerwin Ray and people like that, they make you jump up and down and clap and put your hands up in the air and all sorts of weird things, because we have to get you in a really good physical state in order to take in information. If you're like this and closed up, the likeliness is you're not going to take in information. In fact, you start shutting down parts of your brain, but that's a whole other workshop right there. So you've got your state, then you have your focus. What are you focusing on? When you're living in fear, you're not focusing on good things at all. You're focusing on negative. I'm going to get bit by a spider. Ooh, is it poisonous? Oh, I'm going to die. I won't get to see my kids. We catastrophize. It becomes bigger, 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 bigger. But what if we said, okay, here's another one of God's creatures. Or we use positive language like, oh, I'm not a big fan of spiders, but I can really appreciate the beauty of that spider with its whatever. I'm not a big fan of spiders. Not fearful of them. I'm not a big fan of them. But we started to use positive language like, I can do this. I don't have to be scared. It's not going to jump up and attack me. It's not a jumping spider. And we use positive language. Your brain goes, oh, maybe it's true, and starts to take on that role. Kind of cool, right? So then we've got the focus, and then we have our states. We've done those 2 things. And then it's the language that you're using, right? And that's how you're talking to people. So if you say out loud, I'm scared of spiders, your brain's going to go, oh, let me just reaffirm that. Yes, we are scared of spiders, right? So if you said out loud, I love spiders, I love them. And even if you didn't in your whole heart believe it, your brain starts to believe it and goes, oh, I love spiders, I love spiders, I love spiders, right? And actually creates this whole thing around positivity. I totally invite you to look at this. It's the emotional triad, and it's the triangle of emotional state. If you look it up by Tony Robbins, it's pretty awesome. I also want you to think of right now situations that you've been in where you have survived them on the other side of fear. I wrote a couple of examples here, really, really small examples, huge to some. One, the first time you got on a plane. Now, I remember the first time I got on a plane, I was going to Malta with my mum and dad, which is a beautiful country, by the way, if you haven't been to Malta. Or you could run and get exercise. Marcy, you're absolutely right from a physical perspective. And so it was in the days where you actually went out of the gate onto the tarmac and then walked up the stairs, which very rarely happens nowadays. So anyway, I was there and there was this big jet and I'd never seen a plane this close up before. And I was like, and I was awash with like wonderment. Like, I think it was about 12 maybe or something like that. This is super cool. Like, look at this plane. Oh my gosh. And I had two choices. It was a sliding doors effect. I could have either gone, oh my God, it's so big. Or wow, it's so big. This is so cool and clever and interesting. And I went the wonderment way, right? But I could have gone the opposite way. But let's say I did. I got on the plane and I got off and I went to Malta and I went, wow, isn't that cool? It flew in the air, all these thousands of feet up, and it was super cool. And I had this great experience. And then I did it again on the way back. So through my fear, I got to experience something awesome. I would never have gone to Malta. Never would I have gone to Malta had it not been for me saying I wasn't fearful of being on a plane, right? What are you missing out on? Or what have you done as a result of you ignoring the fear? Maybe it was a bungee jump. I know some people have jumped out of planes. I know some people have done other crazy things like have children. It's a good crazy, don't worry. Having children is scary as anything. But we all know on the other side of it, there's something really quite amazing and fascinating and full of wonderment, like looking at a plane. The first time you went on a driving lesson, you thought, oh, I can do this. It's actually really scary. If my sister's watching right now, she'll tell you. So I passed my driving test and then I didn't get a car for the longest time. And I went and bought a Ford Fiesta, very cool, bucket seats, red car, super, super cool. It's probably made for a bit of a boy racer, really. But anyway, I loved it. I went to pick it up and I realized I couldn't drive without my instructor. And I kangaroo jumped it all around a suburb, right? But I was scared to death. But look at me now. And I'm racing along down these highways and, windows down, wind in my hair, loving it, right? Had I said, oh my goodness, I'm scared of driving, I would never have had all these beautiful experiences I've had as a result of being able to drive. So we need to think about things like this when you get fearful. What is on the other side of that fear? Because everything on the other side of the fear is amazing. And you may have to go through pain to get there, like childbirth, like leaving somebody who's abusive, like, making a decision to leave a job because you hate it, and things like that. But there's always something awesome on the other side of fear. We've talked about surviving versus thriving. Whatever you do, whatever you are faced with an opportunity, a challenge, something to consider, I want you to always think of this. Is it going to increase the quality of my life or people around me? And if the answer is yes, take a jump, take a leap of faith, right? If it's going to increase the quality of your life, do it, thrive. We're not put on this earth to just survive, right? We're not. It's like a plant. I've got this beautiful hydrangeas here. Do I just water it every time it looks a bit dead? Or do I make sure that I'm cultivating it and putting it near the right light and looking after it and admiring it, and turning it round and feeding it and giving it water on the right days, right? You've got a choice. Do you want to survive or do you want to thrive in this scenario? You have that choice. We're going to take a look more on the next episode about fear. I hope this has been helpful. Please put your comments. Reach out to me with any questions. It's ella@ellabates.com. You can see I'm pretty passionate about this particular subject. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you